Hi everybody, my name is Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, this tape, we're shooting this in the year 2000. And over the last week, I spoke about this on the show last week, but in the last week or so, someone strapped bombs to themselves and either drove into a boat, took a bicycle and drove into a checkpoint, or took a car and drove into a wall at an embassy. And that's in order to get to heaven. That is under some weird, demented, crazy way of looking at the precious human life. That's the way for us to really experience true love and true devotion and a true experience, by taking this human life and in the process taking as many other humans' lives as possible. And it's just so berserk, it's so weird. And there's such an opportunity for us. We came into these human bodies, and the differences between us are so small and so minute compared to the sameness between us, compared to the love we experience, to the true destiny of who we are, to the true oneness of what we are. And for us to come into that love and that experience is really what the truth of this life is. And we have to stop recognizing the differences that cause us to take these bombs on our back, to blow ourselves up in the name of love, in the name of God, in the name of truth. There are so many miracles and possibilities for us as human beings, young and old, black and white, all the different colors, all the different races, all the different religions, to come together and to share that oneness, that love, that experience that we all can have, that we all are the same love, that we all are one family. And we just can't keep doing these things under one philosophy, one format, one idea or another. It's too crazy. There's too much joy available for us here. So tonight we have an extraordinary show where miracles, the miracle of this human life is shown, is manifest. We have Deborah Brooks with us, who's an inspirational artist, and her Spentas Angel collection is just an amazing story. I mean, the paintings themselves are amazing, but the story behind them, the story of this woman who had never really painted before, had this experience, this vision, this transcendental knowing, and all of a sudden, without any training, without the right equipment, without even easels, without even canvases, started painting these 7 Spentas angels. And it's just an extraordinary story, and you'll see a video where you can see a lot of the paintings. They're huge, so we didn't bring them on the set. And then we have also with us Dean Brooks, who's an actor. He's a former actor. I don't think he's acting anymore. He's a writer. He's a 3rd-degree black belt. He's writing books with his wife, Deborah, who painted the Angel collection. And the books, he's written numerous books, one of which is Gift Forgotten, and one is about the last Spentas angel. And these books are just extraordinarily beautiful in words and in Deborah's art. And, you know, with Dean and Deborah here with us tonight, we can experience that connection from the first archangels, which is what the Spentas angels are. And to come together in love, instead of strapping bombs to ourselves, instead of taking up checkpoints, instead of separating things in all the ways we separate things, it's time we came together. It's time we came together, because that's truly who we are. We are one love and one family, and it's time for us to do that. So there's really going to be an amazing show tonight. So please now join me in a short meditation, and then we'll begin the show. Thank you. Hi everybody. The first video we're going to have tonight is the story of the Spentas angels. the collection of paintings by Deborah Brooks. Deborah and Dean did this video. It's a beautiful video, and then Deborah and Dean will be with us on the set to discuss the video and their art and their creativity and the magic that's happened in their lives and that could happen to all of us. So please, the video.
Welcome to Angel Cove Studio. There's no doubt that Deborah Brooks was inspired when she painted the Spentas Angel collection. As you can see, a master artist is at work. The only thing is that Deborah Brooks had never painted before. With no ready-made canvases big enough for her inspiration and no paintbrushes, Deborah turned to large wooden doors for her canvas and bits of sponge for her brushes. With the doors leaning up against the walls, acrylic paint, and bits of sponge in her hand, the Spentas Angels came to life at Angel Cove Studio. 7 ancient Babylonian angels whose origins date back somewhere between 500 and 1000 BC have been brought to life in the creation of the 7 majestic paintings, the first archangels, Spentas as they were called. Painted in acrylic on wood and a feminine mystique, the Spentas stand 7 feet high with beautiful translucent wings flowing out and across, while some in triptych form span 7 feet across. Inspired by a page and a half in a book on angels, told of the ancient angels, Deborah began her work. Little did she know at the time of this historical, spiritual, religious implications of the Spentas. Unraveling the mysteries took Deborah Brooks on a spiritual adventure dating back over 3,000 years. And on this odyssey, she would learn that the Magi, the ancient Zoroastrian priests who practiced the religion of Zoroastrianism, 3 wise men told in the Bible, who were guided to Bethlehem by a star and by an angel. The Magi knew of the Spentas Angels, for it was their religion.
Hi, welcome to my studio, Angel Cove Studio, where I conceived and painted the Spentas Angel collection. You're looking at Asha, the first angel that I painted, and she is the gift of truth, meaning follow me, I am the way. Each angel was assigned a gift, and the gift of truth, of course, is one of the most important gifts that we have in this world. If we face the truth, if we know the truth, if we always follow it, we will know our way, and it will lead us to the other virtues of the other 6 Spentas angels. So Asha is the leader, so to speak. She's the one who you might say is dearest to my heart. This is Cherubim, the gift of wisdom. Although we talked about Asha, who was the first angel that I painted, Cherubim is the keynote angel of the Spentas Angel collection. I chose her to lead, so to speak, because she is the gift of wisdom. We are setting up the Spentas Angel Foundation to aid children in their various needs, and Cherubim will be the keynote angel, the leader of the foundation. And she is painted, as you can see, again, 80 inches tall, 48 inches wide, and she's grounded yet ethereal. She's floating through a doorway. One of my favorites. Of course, it's hard to choose when you're the painter. She is one of my favorites. This is Mayer, the gift of light. As you can see, I painted her with just surrounded by light, with light emanating from her. This is one of the, all the gifts are important, but light is one of the most important gifts. When we have followed the truth, when we are one with wisdom, we are one with light. And when we have the light within us, we know what our purpose is, what we are supposed to do. and we emanate it. We walk down the street and people will see a glow about us. And that's what Maya represents. She represents the light, the beauty, the love, the one-pointedness, the truth within everybody. And she just floats. She's done in triptych form again. And incidentally, the triptych form, which I've painted 3 of these in, is an ancient form that was used as ancient tablets within the various churches to portray angels and scenes within the Bible. So Maya is the largest. She's 86 inches wide by 80 inches tall. She has an antique-looking face, ancient kind of Egyptian, Babylonian, although she's a blonde, very interesting face. As I say, these just came to me. I held the brush and God held my hand. As I look at her right now, I even see new things that I hadn't thought of. And that's me, the gift of life. And here we have Ashi, the gift of blessings. Ashi is a very special Spentas angel to me. The day that I painted her, Brody, a fabulous Irish setter, lost his life in front of my house. Before he passed on, though, I was able to love him and comfort him and give him some peace. And let me tell you, that inspired me to paint the most beautiful angel, the colors of Brody that this world has seen. She is truly painted from my heart. And I wanted her to represent the beauty that life goes on. So remember the blessings in your life, and remember that if somebody's taken from you, they still are there in your heart. There are many blessings in this world. Remember them. And this is Ashi. And here we have Armadi, the gift of love and peace. And Armadi is holding a dove signifying love and peace. And in the book, Malaika Beauty, the Last Spentas Angel, the dove has a wonderful voice that says, Aku, Aku, signifying its love for the world. Armadi is beautiful in her violet gown, her wings spanning outward. Unlike any of the other angels I painted, I think perhaps she's the most delicate. And of course, love is delicate. Love is precious, and so is peace. So if we remember to love ourselves first, and love all the beauty and the gifts of the world, all the blessings, and remember the peace, we will find peace in ourselves, and we will have it all. Remember Armadi and the dove. Aku, Aku. This is Velitis, the gift of delight and beauty. Velitis is holding in her hand the magic orb. The magic orb dances in the Malaika Beauty, the Last Spentas Angel. And the magic orb represents all the beauty of the world, the beauty within and the beauty without. And oddly enough, I mean, what touched my heart, I was watching a show on Galilee, and these archaeologists had unearthed the remains of a mosaic painting called the Mona Lisa of Galilee. And it looked just like Velitis. And I have not seen that image until about 2 weeks ago. So Velitis, again, is very special to me, and she should be special to you. Just remember the beauty within your hearts, the beauty within all the hearts of all the people, no matter what happens in your life. Remember the beauty of the flowers, of the sunset, of your puppy, your dog, your cat, your child. Velitis, the gift of delight and beauty. Here we have the precious Malaika Beauty, the gift of all good things for the little children. Malaika Beauty, in her book, The Last Spentas Angel, was so afraid she would not have her gift or know what it was, because all the other angels had their gift. But her gift is the most precious of all. It is the gift of all the gifts all the angels have, and it's her gift to give to the little children. Malaika Beauty has a soft, expressive eye, sometimes sad, sometimes filled with joy. She just protects all the children, and she will be very important with the Spentas Angel Foundation. She's holding a gift of lilies signifying blessings. So she's blessing everyone with the gifts of all the angels. And although she's the smallest, she represents all the good things, for the little children and the adults in us that never got to be, for little children everywhere. That's more like the beauty.
Hi, welcome. We're on the set with Dean and Deborah. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So why don't one of you start talking about like how the whole miracle of the spent angels, and why don't you talk about, because you were sick, you had hurt yourself. I mean, you'd been healthy your whole life, and you were a third-degree black belt, totally macho all over the place.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you weren't so.
I wasn't in such good shape. I was in a position where I had a tremendous shoulder.
Wait, but didn't something come before? Didn't all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you had a
that's right.
retina?
I mean, all of this actually, this all really has to do with the spent angels. When it's, you know, what they call it, the dark night, I think it is.
Right.
First of all, I woke up one morning.
And you were married at this time.
Oh, yes. In fact, this was just a few months before the Spentas actually came into being. But well, excuse me, a little longer than that. I woke up one morning, and all of a sudden, I couldn't see out of my left eye. At the end of the day, we had been in Los Angeles, and we went to the doctor, and we found out that I had a spontaneous detached retina, which is 1 in 10,000, but I was one of the 1 in 10,000, and rushed me to the hospital, trying to make sure that I gained the sight back in this eye, and there's really no guarantees with the detached retina because it was pretty bad. And
usually you get that from fighting.
Sure,
it's
a
fight, a boxer's
I hit, and this didn't come from that. It just happened, and it can happen. Right. So I was possibly going to be blind in the left eye. And that was just a quickly overnight scenario. So Deb worked with me. We had to hold my eye, my head in a particular sort of way, and hopefully these bubbles that they shot behind the eye to lift the retina would attach the retina, hopefully, and then nature could do its course without having to do some more serious operations. Well, thank God it did attach, and through a period of time I got my sight back. That was like in April then in September I tore my rotator cuff working out, and that got horrendous, and I was by now getting gun shy. Went into the hospital.
You were wondering what
I didn't know what was going to happen next. I went to the
hospital.
They do the shoulder rebuilding, and we had just been in Corona Del Mar from Los Angeles for about a year, and I was in recovery and had a frozen shoulder. I couldn't get my whole body, right side of my body was.
And your
really,
whole life you'd been athletic.
Athletic,
and you were third-degree black belt. So, I mean, you'd been in training. So all of a sudden you start.
Everything. Is life trying to get me back?
Am I supposed to slow down?
You know, what's the point here?
Right.
And so the shoulder was really bad, and finally I was going into therapy, and this was about June, about 6 years ago, 95. And I'm in therapy every day, a lot of pain, and Deborah says to me one day, this is how it kind of leads in, Deborah says to me one day, she had just taken a studio, and she had been a designer for many years, and she said, I want to paint angels. Well, at that particular state, if she'd have said to me she wanted to fly to the moon, I'd have said, fine, I was preoccupied. And she said, no, and she said, but you have to get me doors. And I said, doors? And she said, yes, because I can't get a canvas big enough. So I went along with the plan. I went, got the door, brought it back, and as natural as seemed, okay, sure, here, honey, you want to paint? I thought she'd just do a little dabbling. So what happened is that all of a sudden I saw this beautiful goddess-like creature taking form with her back towards us. And it was magnificent. And then she said, but I need 2 more doors. I said, for what? She said, well, it's not finished. So I went and got her 2 more doors, and she joined them together. It became what we call a triptych.
Right.
And then so it was magnificent, and I was taken with it, and then she said, I need another door and another door.
But to go back a step, you were doing some almost like praying for his health and praying to see what he'll do and all that. When this whole idea came to you, why don't you talk about that a little?
Well, we actually had this story of the Spentas for about a year, just a little page and a half we'd found. But I started following this book called The Abundance Book by John Randolph Price. And he had a 40-day plan. And I did the plan, and Of course, I expected, well, I'll win the lottery, whatever. But what I got were 7 angels. I had this.
So you got the visualization of them.
Well, what I got was, I think, clarity that yes, I need to do this.
And you had never painted before? I mean, you had been creative and a designer.
All my life, yes.
But never painted, never with a brush?
No, I was afraid to paint. I was afraid. I was a very timid child, and an art teacher said something to me once in, I think, 5th grade, and I was afraid. I wouldn't be good enough. But I saw this little studio, and I said, you know, this is small. I love where it is. I'm just going to try this. And I went way in the back of the room. I didn't, you know, I thought, well, I don't want anybody to see me because I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. And as my husband said, Asha came out beautifully, and I kind of moved up toward the window slowly. And one just evolved after another.
I mean, when you first got the feel to do this, did all 7 come? Because we've had,
yes.
You know, I think I sent you the tape of Andy Lakey, and he
yes.
but he was in a drug-induced.
Yes.
He was like,
no.
Yes. But he got to do 2,000 of those, you know, the type
yes.
of Andy
yes,
Lakey
I know his work.
angels,
yes.
by the year 2000.
Right.
You know,
right.
so he got like a whole. But did you get all 7 that way, or?
They came to me, as they say, sometimes an artist discovers what's already there on the canvas. They just, as I painted, they came to me. Mm-hmm. With the exception of Asha, I did see or feel that I was seeing this angel walking through a doorway that represented 3 archways of heaven on earth. Mm-hmm. And that one was very clear. And then the others I just stood up and painted.
And you didn't really have the right equipment. You started doing it with like sponges.
I used sponges. I wanted that feeling of just being so close to the work. It's a wonderful experience. And I do paint with brushes now, but I couldn't have gotten closer to what I was creating. So it was my hand directly on the subject matter, and it was like a miracle. I paint like a dance, so I move my hands like this. And one of my students called it Deborah's dance. They just evolved. So in about 6 or 8 weeks, all 7 ancient Spentas were created. 7 feet tall, some 7 feet wide.
And then, how did that progress? I mean, did you start to say, well, you know, now I'm an artist, or now, what happened after that? Or
well,
the gallery?
Yes. Well, when she finished them, we said, "Well, honey, we can't sell these. I mean, these are like our children. You can't just take this one and leave the other 6.
You know,
what are we going to
campaign them again?
No, and we're not going to sell them. So what do you do with these?
Right.
And really, quite honestly, people started coming to the studio who were well versed in the arts, loved the work. They sort of hand-carried Deborah to the proper places that she could get them reproduced in high-end chiglaze. They call it the highest.
Yeah, chiglaze.
Chiglaze, right? And before we knew it, all these Spentas were being photographed and then made into reproductions, and so they could be sold. And with 2 months after that, she did her first one-woman show in Laguna, at the Laguna Gallery. And so we were sort of hand-carried. You know, it was
funny because it's really similar to Andy's story.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody happened to walk in and
yes,
see
I remember that. Yes.
It's a very, you know, like, and that's like the miracle of it all. And
it
then,
is part of it, yes.
You know, the
yes.
whole thing. I mean,
the universe does have a way of
moving us that way into that, you know, into that expansion, into that love.
Yeah.
And the spent angels are from the original archangels, right? And
they were the original
the goddess
archangels.
Representations of the one. Is that something?
The precursor was. I began to become the reader of once we got involved. Why hadn't we heard of the Spentas? So what we found out is that they were the precursors to what we know in angel mythology. As angels, they were the precursor in pre-Babylonian times of these 7 emanations of light from the one creator.
I read somewhere in your literature, I thought it was like the feminine aspect.
Exactly. And all of them were done. All of them were endowed with a feminine aspect, the feminine face of God, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was an intention there in this mythology of Zoroaster. At the time, and this this mythology began to feed into some of the Christian and aspects of angels and etc. But so in some ways, these were Amesha Spentas means sacred immortals. They were not called angels, but for the simplicity's sake, we call them that because, again, they were the precursor. But yeah, they would be called the original archangels.
You know,
probably.
I mean, you heard the opening. I mean, you were 4 feet away. How do we take throughout history that which is coming all from the one, and then separate it out? And this is from my religion. This is, and we fight over like, you know, this angel or that angel, this holy site. What happens in human experience that we start out in this experience of the one, of feminine aspects of the one, and then we end up strapping bombs to ourselves, shooting each other over color, over angels, over holy sites? I mean, it's berserk.
Yeah, I know. And it's very frustrating because when you talk about religions and spirituality, it's very frustrating. I certainly don't have an answer to what that would be, but
we're trying to solve it tonight.
Yeah, if we could solve it tonight, we'd have a wonderful. But again, we do know that the answer is love. You see, you either have two choices in life, really. You have fear, you could choose, or you have love. There's really only two choices in life, and they may mask themselves in lots of different ways.
Right.
So I think understanding and being clarified with what love is, when you really choose love, it leads you to certain things and through certain things. So I think through that process, I'm an optimist. I believe that there is a divine plan here. And so I believe that this is like evolution. We're moving there, and the frustration is for people like yourselves and all of millions of others out there who have awakened to that reality of love, and have to continually not focus on that negative aspect that is happening around us, but keep that energy going. I believe that's really the answer for us.
You had a martial arts practice where I'm sure meditation was
sure,
part of it, and that's where you're...
Yeah, I had a wonderful teacher who was well schooled in the Eastern thought, and so we got really very much more so at that time, this is in the 70s, very much more so into the ideas of the spirituality of the martial arts rather than maybe what we have come to see. All that other stuff, or maybe the karate chop movies. But I was blessed from that standpoint. So for me, I became keenly aware of the journey, that each of us are on a journey. Right. And the more we become aware of that, then the more the journey can open up to us.
And how about you, Deb? I mean, you know, I've had like a history of meditation, spiritual paths. What was your experience to come into that one experience?
I think it started many, many years before I started reading Hugh Prather, for one, and Richard Bach, and then other books followed, and then I found Randolph Price and many others. And once I found the story of the ancient Spentas, I knew I had to bring this to the world. And maybe it sounds funny to some people. I didn't know I could paint them. I didn't know how. I just knew that this was my mission, my destiny. And I believe a lot of it is about that oneness you talk about. And I talk to so many people in my studio, and of all different religious backgrounds and denominations and beliefs. And what I see is that so much judgment. You know, if I'm Catholic, I judge this way. If I'm Christian, Protestant, fundamentalist, this, whatever name. But really, love is the one name. Whatever we call God is an individual thing within our soul and our heart. And I think it's just a matter of not judging and opening our hearts and our lives to everyone and their beliefs. And how that happens, I don't know, but I think it's judgment.
And I think also a point that I think, you know, part of the journey, this whole thing we're talking about is really a sharing thing. And I think what's important with the people that we've talked to over the last years and through New York, the expos and different things like that, is an awareness that these people, all of them out there, have this unbelievable gifts within them. And the ones that have awakened to maybe not as clear as to where they're going, but or what they feel, but they're feeling different. There's an awakening, if you like. And what we've seen is that these people all of them are endowed with these special qualities, and one person will pursue this and someone's pursuing that. But, you know, again, if this could happen to us, you said something, I think, if this could happen to us, obviously we were available to it. But if you give yourself into that, just the possibility, it's amazing what can happen. Deborah had to give herself to that possibility, and even in her fears. And I think it's, for me, I learn lessons by sometimes watching other people or listening to other people, and then I try to, oh yeah, I see. And for me, that's the big lesson.
Make it real for you.
Make it real for myself.
Right.
That what we do, which is exciting for us, other people have these gifts and they're unfolding. And all they have to do is really just step into it a little more fully. Give themselves a little more fully
a little
to the
more
unknown.
Surrender to that.
And then
Yes,
this same force that made her paint or made me begin to write or allowed us to do these things works within them. So this is what we've seen, a lot of sharing and a lot of this going on in vast numbers.
And you've been traveling a lot because, and also you have a gallery that's open, that how we first met.
Yes,
we
right.
just stopped by the gallery in Harmony.
Yes.
And, you know, we just saw these things. We said, well, we do a television show. You know, you guys are insane.
And I'm sequestered away in that little loft, and you found me.
Right. And, you know, and that's the thing of it. I mean, what we've been seeing is like, you know, that a really beautiful thing is that people are coming to collaborate.
Yes.
You know, and to really share. So, I mean, you know, Bridging Heaven and Earth can bring your love to the world, and then, you know, and you'll have it in the studio showing the show, and somebody who wants to be on the show, you know what I mean? And all the connections start to really...
Yes,
there's a growing effect there that
they're just like a ripples, you know, and we were talking earlier about, you know, how we can, you know, get all shows on the internet, and so that somebody who wants to watch that video we showed before and go back and forth. I mean, we'll not have to be in a certain city at a certain time, but we'll be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in Africa and Portugal, and you know, anybody who has an internet access. So
that's the wonder of
it. That's the wonder, and that's, I mean, the thing about the internet is, like, in a way, there's no time and space.
Right.
So I mean, it's almost like you know, the 60s now.
The heavens.
Right. Okay. So, you know, maybe what we'll do now is we'll have a video. I didn't call the video earlier, but this is a video, and it really goes to what we've been talking about. It's a video. This is a video that we have a lot of requests for. Alessia did the show live, and it was a performance of All the Same Love. It's from the new CD that Leslie and I produced called Leslie Bridging Heaven and Earth. And also thanks for all the emails and the calls we've gotten, you know, congratulating us about it. So this song was written by Leslie and I, and it's called All the Same Love, and it's on the CD Leslie Bridging Heaven and Earth. So.
Lightly fine,
Hi, we're back on the set with Deborah and Dean. And really, I mean, we're all the same love. Let's get with it. So you were starting to say about the spent angels, how the motto and the prayer you were using when Dean was sick. And
yes, it was let our hearts meet, our souls touch, and our spirits soar. And I really never told him. I would just say this prayer, you know, in a little private place. And then after I painted the Spentas, I said, my God, that's my mission statement with the Spentas. That's what it's all about. And so then I did a painting that represented that, which, to my delight, I mean, people have been just embraced. When they come to Harmony, to my gallery, and they find it, especially those who are in love or have a loved one they think of, they buy that print. So, and I think that's what it's all about, what your show's about, what we're about, what what love is about.
Right.
It's all about that.
Yeah, on the front page of our website, it's we're all made of love. God is love, and we are God.
Yes.
Right.
And
yes.
you know, in 3 sentences, like a haiku. I mean, that's it. And that's it. And then we have 400 pages after that.
Yes.
Right. Felt like everything else.
Simplicity.
But really, that's it with lightning. Yes. Well, you've seen the site.
Yes.
And so, when did you guys start collaborating on books? I know you're the writer, and then there's a lot of your art in there. And actually, I think we have the covers. If we want to catch those over there, we have the two over on the far left.
The Angel collection.
As I said, I started off as the observer, and it was a wonderful position to be in, to see the things come to life. Well, the next stage for me was a lot of research and finding out more about it, because this just happened so quickly, and we didn't really understand the full details of who were the Spentas and what were they. In addition to that, I was continually with people who were coming, and they were also taken individually with the Spentas, that in different ways. One woman would have recovering from surgery, and another one would be with her child, or a child that had passed on, and so on and so on. So many wonderful stories, and yet they were deeply touched by these individual Spentas. And I thought, my goodness, I'd love to write a story. A magical story, like a mother to child kind of a thing, and so all of a sudden I started writing this, and having been a writer, I'm very.
To go back, Malika Puti.
Malika Puti, the last Spenta Angel, is the name of this magical story. What I'm so thrilled about is I wrote this story, and I never ever changed a word. It was like my little muse inside of me was just telling me what to write, and so it gives me great pleasure that the book has sort of. I had no intention of publishing it or anything else. The book took a life of its own, and people have bought it in the galleries and other galleries, and I get letters back and from all kinds of people. But it's basically a magical story about the 7 Spentas, and it really can be perceived on a lot of different levels. But basically, I wrote it from mother to child, so scenario. That's the one book here, and then I've.
And the story of Malika Puti and how she meets her sister angels, and they come to life in a magical way.
She's the last of the Spentas that Deborah created, and she's endowed with all good things.
And she's the child.
She's the child, and in the story, the great creator creates her last, and she wants to know what her gift would be. Well, of course, she can't imagine what it could be, and slowly through the story she begins to meet her other sisters, and each one is so wonderful, and each one of them shares her gift with Malika Puti. And of course, by the end, having shared all of their gifts with her, Malika Puti has all the gifts, because once a gift is shared, it belongs to you, it's in you, it's in me. And so at the end, obviously, Malika Puti, to her amazement, is all the good things. And of course, then they go to the other world to be wished for and believed in, and where wished for and believed in.
But you're in the process, both of you, with you writing and you illustrating or having your paintings in there, or writing a series of these magical journeys books.
They just sort of came, and then this particular book, then one developed called The Gift Forgotten, which was about. It sort of came back from a line that I think it was Deepak Chopra said that we're all gods and goddesses in embryo, unfolding to our true nature. Unfolding to our true nature. And I thought, gee, you know, a lot of us have forgotten that we're really more than what's in the mirror. And so I wrote a story, and it's called A Gift Forgotten, and it was about a little boy's saving these pupations, which were caterpillars who had forgotten that they were butterflies. Metaphors for and
even our audience.
Well, but the point is, Deborah started doing these wonderful.
We have a slow bunch. We're just used to the crew, but the audience out there is actually very, very intelligent.
Yeah. Well, good. That's, Deborah did the paintings for that, so we collaborated in that together. And this other Spentas book that we have here, it just seems like it's ongoing. Something's always sort of developing in her collections, or something's developing with me. And as I finish a book or something, either she's does the paintings, or she does some painting, and I get motivated by that. So it sort of feeds off of itself.
Right.
And
that's what we were talking about earlier. That collaborative process is really, and we see that expanding, and that's, you know, one of the things you know in the brochure about the foundation, to have a real retreat and communication center where a lot of this information, a lot of the availability of recording studios, printing presses, publishing houses, you know, so we all can use it. And the stupidity is that sometimes we all like kind of reinvent the wheel. So you have to figure out how to get a barcode, how to get it distributed. And so if this information, if you knew,
expedites everything.
Place, you know, get the barcode from here. These are good printers. These are good distributors. Call this person, or we'll call them for you.
Certainly. Oh, yeah.
And that's, you know, I mean, we have to come together, all of us, and to have that love really start expanding.
It's like you're giving it out, you're getting it back.
So that's right. Your love is being everybody's adding to everybody's pot.
It does work. It's not Pollyanna kind of philosophy. It sounds good. It actually does work.
I mean, that's what we've really been experiencing. You know, working. I mean, with the show and the CD, and you know, the Leslie Bridging Heaven and Earth CD and the foundation. Is just the more we get out there, you know, the more that love just starts. You know, multiplying, expanding, and really because the number of people who are like traveling all around the world now. So I mean, it really is just rippling through everywhere.
No doubt.
And you'll find your book or in some place you've never.
Strangest thing.
I mean, I walked into places and heard you know, a CD, and it's like, I wrote that.
Exactly.
Holy
that sounds familiar.
It's when you kind of realize that there is something out there that responds to
the attempt at love.
The intentions that you have, and if you just give in, it has circuitous ways that it makes things happen.
And then it's like the faith comes. That we can lean on that.
That we go more and more.
That we can be open to that. That we can share our gift and we won't lose it.
Exactly.
That we can share our knowledge.
Exactly.
You know, and not hoard it. Well, I figured out how to do it. Let those other schmucks figure out how to do it.
No. that gets nothing.
That's just a big loser.
No. So, and I think people are doing it, and I see it all the time, and it's you know, it's gratifying. You see it. You've done so many shows here. You see it.
I mean, we say we're so lucky. I mean, every 2 weeks these incredible people come in, you know, from all over. I mean, literally all over the world come in and just spend a certain amount of time with us with their love and their way of their spoke on the infinite.
Exactly.
And really, we've had probably over 200 guests on the show, and this is the 106th show. And I would say there have been a couple who've been into like ego and what, you know, but almost everyone has been into love and sharing, and it's just an unbelievable thing.
Because you're drawing it because of what you're doing.
And I'd say the same thing goes on in your gallery. I mean, we go there, and you know, and the people who aren't supposed to be on, even if we book them for one reason or another, don't end up getting on the show. So it's like there's a protection. Like the people who aren't supposed to go to your gallery, you'll be shut. You'll be at lunch. You'll be down.
There is a way. There is a force there. And the ones that you should meet, they're there.
I had to run out on an errand, and an unplanned bill had come up that I had to run and take care of, and I put a note on the door, and I ran into Cambria because we're in this little town of Harmony. And
Harmony is a little town.
18 people. And I came back, and there was this lovely lady waiting at the bottom of the stairs. And she said, "Oh, you're early. You were going to be back at 2:15. It's 2." I said, "Well, you know, I never know how long it'll take." You know, and comes up and spends a nice amount of money. We shared a beautiful few moments together. She bought some art and fell in love with it. You know, we shared stories, and I thought, wow, that faith, it just pays off. It just, so like you're saying, they'll find you.
Yeah,
they'll
I mean,
wait,
the more
they'll
you
come
experience
back.
it, the more you feel it, the more you can.
Yes.
It's like leaning on a cane.
Yeah.
You know that the cane will hold you.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's how you can lose the fear.
Yeah, exactly.
That you won't be all right.
Yeah.
If you follow this, you won't be all right.
You have to realize that, sure, the fear will be there, but you kind of have to give in a little bit. You don't have to necessarily take the leap into the volcano, but certainly just by degree, if you'll start to let go of
Be
that
open,
ego that's
right,
very controlling and afraid, if you just start to let go a little bit at a time, miraculous things can happen and do happen. So
They do happen.
Surrender.
Because, I mean, every one of our lives could see that, you know, like there are millions of miracles.
Yeah, they are, definitely.
You know, I mean, we think, well, the miracle is this or that. I mean, the fact that we can look in a mirror every morning, there's a consciousness that sees a face and sees a wrinkle or sees, you know, a gray hair and goes through that whole
process.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of the beauty.
Right. But yeah, the whole miracle of this experiment is just fantastic.
Yeah.
If we can just rise above the duality and the little things that seemingly are painful to us, or separate to us.
Yeah, I think we are, individually.
And that's happening.
Individually, it's an individual process, and I see it happening, again, having come from a place where ego is dominant.
Yeah, because you spent a lot of time, and you were a writer and an actor in Hollywood.
Yes, and it's a very...
And you were on like that more or less famous, for our audience probably has never heard of it, the Days Are Alive.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's a fairly famous.
It was a
It still is. I mean, it's still on, right?
Yes,
I mean, it's still one of the top-rated shows, and you were an actor on that, and you wrote for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So you came, I mean, where ego was king.
Dominant. If we had this kind of conversation, it wouldn't have
They
applied to
locked
anybody
themselves-
in the room.
Yes.
But thank God, I was fortunate enough to find new things. I was available, but again, I think it also comes from a standpoint that everybody, when it's right, when the time is right, even though it may not feel comfortable, there is that awakening. There is that sense of there's something more, and that's basically what.
And that's a gift. I mean, you can't.
There
you know,
it is.
you
There
know,
it
it's
is.
just at some point you're drawn to something, and you don't know why. You're drawn to karate.
Exactly.
I was drawn to whatever.
Whatever it is, it has a way of leading you. Yeah.
Right, and and then it takes, and it's like always, but for the grace of God, and that's how we can. If we recognize that, that's how we can always be humble, because it's.
Most definitely.
You know,
I
but for the
agree,
grace of
yes.
God, that door wouldn't open.
Sure.
And I
Yes.
wouldn't have met that
Sure.
person. I would have got
Yeah.
back at 2:15 and
Yeah.
she would have left at 2:09.
Exactly.
You know, so, I mean, grace flowered me with that openness, with
Yes.
that love. I mean, people say, well, I work for that openness. I say, well, what gave you the experience or the courage or the energy or the capacity to work for it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Very true. I think it's a wonderful thing. A quick little note here. I met Deborah back east, and it was one of those things that I learned from. I went back there kicking that I didn't want to go back.
Right.
You know,
right.
and so, but I've learned now that, you know, that you sometimes you give in, you don't know what's going to come of it, but you got to give in and not try to force things so much. You know?
At one point in my life, I was living on an organic farm, you know, a commune in the 70s and all that. And I said to this person, I'd never live alone and never live in the city again.
Right.
And I was only like 21 or 22 years old. I mean, so you know, on the normal actuarial tables, I had a few more years to go. And, and I've lived a few more years. I'm not 21 now.
Right.
It was probably most of you, yes. But, and within 6 months, I was living alone in the middle of Washington, D.C.
Wow.
So from that moment on, it was like these nevers.
Yeah, right.
You know, get a grip.
Yeah, right.
You know, life can do.
learn.
Right. Lots of things.
Yes.
And the more you become aware of it, that's wisdom. I mean, after some point, you begin to say, wait.
You're actually learning something
from it. Yeah.
So I think what they're going to try to do is pick up some of the pictures, maybe from left to right. So why don't you describe the ones that we're getting to?
Divine Love is the first one. These are some paintings that I've done since the Spentas. All are inspired by the Spentas, by that beautiful ancient story. And Divine Love is exactly what her name says. She's carrying the Holy Grail that carries the waters of universal abundance and love. And what you might think of as the wings behind her, I thought of as a heart or a guardian. In the philosophy of the Spentas, they say that we carry a fravashi, a guardian of our soul, behind us, and so that's that beautiful energy that you see there.
And the original's quite large. This is just
all my originals I couldn't bring because they're at least 5-6 feet tall or 7 feet tall, so we couldn't quite handle that right now. And then the next one is Ariana, Birth of the Soul, and Ariana is unbelievable to me. She's like the smile, like a universal language. Ariana is about transformation. She's about grace. That is actually the pose of grace and serenity in yoga. And I am truly amazed and grateful every day when people of all ages and genders come in and they are just breathless when they see Ariana. And then the next one is the Magi Priestess, and she is my latest painting. The original is 7 feet tall and 3 feet wide, and the Magi Priestess is actually the human embodiment, like all of us, the sacred woman or the sacred man, that embodies all the 7 gifts of the ancient Spentas. And she is divine grace and beauty. She's about non-judgment, about knowing the beauty within our souls and our hearts. And so that's a small sampling of the work I've been able to do since the Spentas, but 3 that are very special to me. They're all my children, so it's hard to decide who to bring.
Wow. Yeah, those are beautiful.
Thank you.
Those are fantastic. So, I guess we're coming to the end of the show again, and, really, I mean, we start out with what goes on and how we end up bombing each other, and we end up into the love and the Spenta angels and the glory of what it is to be a human being. And really, we can just take that love and take it and just spread it and share it and collaborate with it and just let it overtake you. I mean, that's the time that we're in, and that's the time that we can make true for all of ourselves. So it's time we did it. It's time. It feels much better to feel connected. It feels much better to feel the love. It feels much better to know the truth and to feel like everyone's your brother and sister. So good night. God bless you. Come again. We love you. Good night. Thank you, Dean and Deborah.